Welcome to Let's Talk Criterion, your exclusive channel reviewing all new titles in the collection on a weekly basis. In this edition, we'll be taking a look at the latest Eclipse release, Eclipse 6 Carlos Saura Flamenco Trilogy, coming to the collection on Blu-ray. Let's Talk Criterion's a channel tucked away in relative seclusion, so please tell your friends, and if you haven't, consider subscribing. It would be greatly appreciated. Carlos Saura was a Spanish film director, photographer and writer. Alongside Luis Buñuel and Pedro Almodóvar, he is considered among Spain's greatest filmmakers. He began his career in 1955, concentrating on documentary shorts. In 1956, his feature The Hunt was thrust into the spotlight, winning the Silver Bear at the Berlin International Film Festival, and gaining international recognition when his first feature film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. Now, he won special jury awards also for Cousin Angelica from 1973, and he received an Academy Award nomination in 1979 for Mama Turns 100. His well-known Flamenco trilogy was released through the 1980s, Blood Wedding, Carmen, and El Amor Brujo, making up the trilogy. Blood Wedding, or Bodas de Sangre, from 1981, is a breathtaking minimalist fusion of cinema and flamenco dance. Adapted from Federico Garcia Lorca's tragic play and choreographed by dance icon Antonio Gades, the film strips away theatrical excess to capture the intense, raw emotion of devastating crimes of passion. As with all Saura's flamenco films, it's overtly theatrical in nature. It begins with the company arriving at the studio and putting on their costumes and their makeup. Now, the dance is then performed in a bare windowed space with a minimum of props and no set. There are no elaborate costumes, and many of the actors wear only their rehearsal clothes. Saura does not film a traditional stage play. Instead, he begins with a hyper-realistic look at the dancers' daily routines, arriving at a bare rehearsal hall, for instance, and applying their makeup and doing their warm-up routine. As the dancers begin the dress rehearsal, the environment quietly melts away. The film masterfully transitions from the Criterion studio to a completely focused, emotionally charged performance. The first of Saura's Flamenco Trilogy, Blood Wedding, received tremendous success. The film revolves around a dance company rehearsing and finally performing Blood Wedding from Federico Garcia Lorca. It's Saura's first collaboration with another huge name in Spanish culture of the time, Antonio Gades, who, with a certain mysticism, leads his dance company through the elemental form of the art of dance. Interruption, repetition, rehearsal clothes, and a minimal bare windowed space give way to Gades's beautiful choreography. He and Cristina Hoyos make fascinating principal dancers in this tale of love ruined by the violent, repressive traditions of a culture. The production, as I say, is stripped to its bare essentials. No elaborate props or stage sets. Instead, the drama relies entirely on Gades's choreography, classical guitars, and of course the dancers' rhythmic clapping and foot stomping. Unlike conventional film dance, Saura actively uses the camera, employing stunning pans, tight tracking shots, and a famous slow motion, almost vertiginous circular shot during the climax to pull the viewer directly into the heart of the action. Now, the iconic fatal knife fight that takes place between the rival suitors is also brilliantly staged within a very small circle of light. It relies on tension and silent slow motion movement, delivering an incredibly powerful impact. Antonio Gades is Leonardo, Cristina Hoyos is the bride, Juan Antonio Jimenez is groom, Pilar Cardenas is the mother, and Carmen Velena is the wife. Blood Wedding Bodas de Sangre uses gripping camera work and heart-pounding rhythmic editing to evoke the experience of moving with the dancers every step of the way. The film's a running time of 71 minutes. It's in Spanish and has a 1:33:1 aspect ratio. As saucy, wanton, inexhaustible femme fatales go, Carmen, the Spanish gypsy who first appeared in Prospero Miriam's 1845 novel, must be one of the most popular and long-lived. Principally responsible, I suppose, is the continuing popularity of Bizet's 1874 opera, Carmen. It goes on and on and on, whether conventionally performed, as it's done in most of the world's opera houses, or whether it's adapted, as it was in Rodgers and Hammerstein's Carmen Jones and in Peter Brook's production, Carmen. Since 1915, when Geraldine Farrar, the American soprano, appeared in a silent movie version of Carmen, Carmen has turned up fairly regularly on movie screens. Among the various incarnations, of course, have been the 1946 French film with Viviane Romance, the 1948 version, The Loves of Carmen, with Rita Hayworth, Otto Preminger's screen version of Carmen Jones from 1954, and in 1968, Radley Metzger's Carmen Baby, a made-in-Yugoslavia exploitation film with rock music standing in for Bizet's score. One of the very best of these very free adaptations of Carmen, of course, must be Carlos Saura's Flamenco Carmen. It was released in 1983, and it was much more radical. Saura had first considered the Don Juan story, but Gades, whose input as choreographer was this time to be properly rewarded, favoured the famous Bizet opera. The first ingenuity, of course, was to build a story around Antonio, the Don Jose figure, seeking with the guitarist Paco de Lucia as music director and the right girl to play Carmen. Now, this was a then unknown and preternaturally beautiful actress called Laura del Sol. Rehearsing her hard for the part, Antonio falls for her, but as in the original, she trifles with him. Mirroring the rehearsal structure of Bodas, the second ingenuity was to make Carmen a kind of anti-performance, a story that wasn't a story, Saura says, in which the absolute essence of Mérimée Bizet is kept. But the drama, that's the tragedy as it becomes, in a scene of shocking violence at the end, is played out in modern dress, and as if it were just a small part, a regular day in a bigger process of showmaking. The flamenco sections, erupting from the chaos of rehearsal, still have visceral, unforgettable impact all these years later. One moment of sheer genius, of course, is when Laura del Sol prepares to perform dance, the famous habanera for Antonio, not, in fact, to flamenco guitar, but against the sonorous crescendos and choruses of Bizet's actual score, as Gades joins her with his geometric, jagged elegance. The most erotic flamenco pas de deux ever made ensues. A short while later, Antonio vents his frustration at Carmen by driving the company in a frenzied zapateado, feet stamping across the studio. First, the camera follows the feet, like guns firing, with Antonio's shrieks of "Don't run," the only accompaniment, and then, of course, it rises to frame the dancers, male and female, full square, and turning and stamping in perfect synchronicity. The effect on the viewer is utterly bone-shaking. This scene alone must almost instantly have launched 1,000 amateur flamenco groups across the world, and as it happens, Carmen was a huge international success as well. It features Paco de Lucia as Paco, Laura del Sol as Carmen, Antonio Gades as Antonio, Marisol as Pepa Flores, Cristina Hoyos yet again as Cristina, and Juan Antonio Jimenez again as Juan. Saura's approach distinguishes itself from conventional adaptations primarily by making the process of adaptation itself become the focal point and by delving into the connections between art and life. Expertly crafted dance sequences and an enthralling musical score featuring guitarist Paco de la Chia, who reinterprets Bizet's compositions within the framework of Spanish folk culture. Now, the film won the BAFTA Award for Best Foreign Language Film. It was submitted to the 1983 Cannes Film Festival, where it received the Technical Grand Prize and award for Best Artistic Contribution. And additionally, it earned nominations for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, the 1984 César Award for Best Foreign Film, and the 1984 Golden Globe Award for Best Foreign Language Film. Depicting the ups and downs of their affair in between rehearsals for Gades's ballet, Carmen is a visually hypnotic hall of mirrors in which the dancers become inseparable from their personas. Now, the film's a running time of 101 minutes. It's in Spanish and has an aspect ratio of 1:66:1. And now we come to the final film in the Flamenco Trilogy, El Amor Brujo, Love the Magician, also known as Wedded by Witchcraft. It was released in 1986 and it's a Spanish musical film written and directed by Saura. The choreography was produced in the flamenco style by Maria Pages. Now, the film was screened out of competition at the 1986 Cannes Film Festival. The film is based on El Amor Brujo, composed by Manuel de Falla. He originally wrote for a gypsy troupe using libretto by Maria de la O Lejaraja. Now, the premiere in 1915 wasn't very successful, and the composer reduced the amount of spoken dialogue, reworking the piece as a ballet. Candela is loved by Carmelo, marries Jose in a pre-arranged marriage decided by their respective fathers. Jose's in love with the flirtatious Lucia and dies defending her honour. Carmelo is mistakenly arrested for the killing and spends several years in prison, and after he's released, he declares his love for Candela. Now, although Candela is now free to marry Carmelo, she's haunted and obsessed by the ghost of Jose, who appears every night to dance with her. Candela, while speaking with Lucia, learns that Jose pursued her even after he married Candela. She renounces him, but's unable to shake his hold on her. Tio Rosario provides the solution. Lucia must dance with Jose, an act which will exorcise his ghost forever. It's never made clear if Lucia actually gives up her life to join him, but she never reappears in the film after their dance scene. Carmelo and Candela are played by Gades and Cristina Hoyos yet again, his regular dance partner. Jose and Lucia by Juan Antonio Jimenez popping up again, and Carmen's star Laura del Sol once again. Now, this last may strike some as an error. Why should Del Sol, an actress of almost overpowering, luscious physicality, whose beauty helped make Carmen so successful, be just relegated to the supporting role in this film? Isn't my body more beautiful? Lucia once asks Carmelo, and you can see her point here. But the casting's right. Hoyos is the finer dancer, and she's a face a sculptor would adore. She also looks like someone driven through purifying flames, consumed indeed by tragic love, a fit match for the tormented Carmelo. Del Sol plays the role that's right for her, the sumptuous temptress, the fleshy hoyden, and Jimenez, callous, narcissistic Jose is here her proper mate. Carlos Saura is a great filmmaker who has not gotten his due in America. His work has ranged from brutal realism in The Hunt, stinging social satire in The Garden of Delights, and fierce compassion in Cría Cuervos, to a near mystical exploration of the bonds of consciousness the union of present and past. Sweethearts Elisa Midavia. All these concerns are present as well in his Goddess dance films. They explore large themes and they're imbued with psychology and a keen grasp of Spanish culture. They also mine the regions between dream and reality, theatre and life, and soul and the body. Now, Amor Brujo is less popular, of course, than Carmen, but it may be the better film. The dancing of all four leads, especially Gades and Hoyos, is magnificent in the film, and so is the singing by Spanish pop flamenco star Rocío Jurado. The film expands the story with spoken dialogue and several songs and uses the entire score of the ballet. The Orquesta Nacional de España was conducted by Jesus López Cobos. So the cast: Antonio Gades is Carmelo, Cristina Hoyos is Candela, Laura del Sol is Lucia, Juan Antonio Jimenez is Jose, Emma Penela is Tia Rosario. El Amor Brujo, Love the Magician, is a seductive melodrama of a man, Antonio Gades, whose beloved is haunted by the ghost of another. The film has a running time of 103 minutes. It's in Spanish and has an aspect ratio of 185:1. And special features consist of an essay by author and film critic Michael Koreski. All three films in the Flamenco Trilogy received a 4K restoration, and that came from Mercury Films. And they come in a Blu-ray set, Eclipse number 6, Carlos Saura Flamenco Trilogy. It releases in the US only on Tuesday, the 30th of June. Of course, just started in Barnes & Noble now is the July sale with 50% off all the Criterion titles and a chance to pick up your titles from earlier this year, and of course box sets at an affordable price. So whether you're buying online or popping along to your local Barnes & Noble store, we certainly hope you'll get a bargain and a chance to augment your collection. And of course, all the June releases and the forthcoming July releases will also be available at 50% off the retail price. So 4K is working at about $25 and Blu-rays at about $20. And let's hope Amazon also decides to price match some of those new titles as well. Next time on Let's Talk Criterion, we'll be looking at the long-awaited 4K upgrade of David Lynch's 1980 classic The Elephant Man, starring John Hurt as John Merrick. So until next time, from me, as always, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.